Well, howdy, Pastor Mark here. This week's question comes from a mom. She asks, how important is the child-grandparent relationship? Super important, as long as the grandparents are healthy. Goes on to say, my husband's parents get upset whenever we set a boundary with them or say no. For example, my husband asks them to try and watch their language around our young kids when we visit. This upset his mom. And she says she feels like she can't be herself around the children. Maybe she shouldn't be herself. Maybe she should change herself. Go do that, Grandma. This type of thing usually causes them to ghost us or go silent for months. Welcome to Toxic In-Laws. You're the only one, by the way. None of us have ever seen this. I feel bad for my children because they love their grandparents. We just don't know how to navigate this as Christians. Is our setting of boundaries building walls instead of bridges? So I'm at the point now, I'm 50. Our oldest two children are married and probably not going to be too long, and I'm going to be a grandpa. So I'll just tell you from my perspective a couple of things that are really crucial. Number one, when a young couple gets married, they are not part of your family. They're starting a brand new family, their own family. And so the new family gets to do things the way they want to do it. What I've told our kids is, I will support whatever decision you make as long as it's not ungodly. Meaning, your marriage is your marriage, your family is your family. If you want our opinion, ask it. Otherwise, we're not inserting ourselves. It's not like you're 7 years old, you're a grown adult, and now your loyalty is ultimately to your spouse, not to your mom and dad. We're no longer in the first position of priority. It's God and spouse, and then when God adds kids, those are your priorities, and we just need to accept as the parents, we love you with all of our heart, but we're going down the priority scale. We're nowhere near the top. Things change once a couple gets married and when they add children. That being said, not only are they a new family, they get to decide how they're going to do family. And then when their children are born, they get to decide, how do we raise them? Where do we take them to church? How do we educate them? Those are their decisions. If we want any input in that, number one, we need to love and serve in such a way that we earn trust that they would invite us in. And if they're not inviting us in, we just need to be quiet and be supportive of their decision. If we believe it's ungodly or dangerous, out of love, we would bring that to their attention. But otherwise, you make your own decisions as an adult and for your children. That being said, when the child is in the middle, the problem is now there are two families, two households that have two ways of operating. Maybe in your house, you don't cuss in front of the little kids. And at Grandma and Grandpa's house, maybe she is ex-military sailor, chain-smoking, potty-mouth granny. And she says, well, the way we do it at our house is we cuss like sailors in front of the grandkids. Well, the issue is, they need to change the environment of their home when your children are present so that it continues the environment of your home. That ultimately the parental authority is not changed by geography or household. So when our grandkids come, and I'm prophesying someday they will come, I will ask our children, the parents, what do you want? What's their bedtime? What's their diet? What's their screen time? What's their technology? Like what are the things that the kid can and cannot do? And we will need to submit to the mother and father and to extend their values and their beliefs for their child. Because the Bible says nothing about grandparents giving an account to God, but it says a lot about the parents giving an account to God for the child. So they are responsible. So we need to come into a submissive serving position as the grandparents. How do we extend your values? How do we continue your household environment? And how do we teach the children to honor their mother and father by us as grandparents honoring their mother and father and aiding in that honoring process? Any extended family member that won't abide by those kinds of basic reasonable principles is really going to confuse the child. And it is, when we're here, we're told this, and when we're here, we're told that, or when we're here, we're modeled this, when we're here, we're modeled that. When a child is very young, it's actually very confusing. You don't want to confuse the children. You want to instruct and raise the children. And so the best way to have the conversation, it sounds like you did it right. If the problem is with the husband's extended family, he needs to talk to them. If the problem is with the wife's extended family, she needs to talk to them. Don't jam up the extended family unless you have to And if you have to, make sure that the biological child is invested and involved in having that hard conversation. That being said, if they ghost you or they punish you or they distance themselves from the grandkids, shame on them. They're in sin, they're wrong, they're being divisive, they're being selfish. And oftentimes parents can be very, very selfish, especially when the grandchildren show up. But they need to realize now that supporting the parents and continuing the vision and values toward the children of the parents is now the serving position, not the leading position. It is the serving position, not the decision-making position. And as a parent, you literally need to go upside down from I'm leading you as a child to now I'm serving you as an adult, and I'm allowing you and your spouse to make your own decisions for your own marriage, for your own children, for your own future. And if they won't do that, then there needs to be a strong, bright boundary that says, we would love for you to get time with the kids. But for that to happen, it needs to be a healthy environment that we can put our children in, because if you weren't family, we wouldn't even consider allowing our children in your environment. And this is what tends to happen. We would never just drop our kids off at somebody's house where they're getting cussed at all day, but if it's grandma, we tend to make an exception. And the point is this, the well-being in a healthy, nurturing, safe, godly environment for the child is what's primary, and you would love the child to be with the grandparents if they're willing to make the effort to provide that environment. And if not, the answer is it's not personal between you and the grandparents. It really is practical. We just don't put our children in those kinds of environments. We don't put them around people that are fighting or yelling or cursing or watching things on television in front of the kids that they shouldn't, or dragging them into unsafe, unhealthy, or ungodly environments. So there you go. I'm siding with the parents on this one. If you've got a question, send it in to hello@realfaith.com.